the sustainable agriculture practices, technologies can improve productivity, reduce environmental impact, but the digital agricultural application of digital technologies and also agricultural value chains and so on. As a technical request, please keep the 10 minutes time limit during your presentation. Every speaker must have to deal his own speech in this time frame. My colleague will signal at 9 minutes by switching the video back on if you go on. After that, there will be an opportunity for 5 minutes of discussion in relation to the presentations. Looking at the presentations received before the session looks very promising. I hope the good presentations will be inspiring and motivating for a good debate and discussion. So I ask Anna-Marie if you uploaded the first presentation, please.
I uploaded it, but Mr. József Horváth is not yet attached to this platform.
Yeah, because the first presentation title is the economic impact of soybean-free feeding on laying hens, and the presenter, the speaker is Mr. Horváth József, but I am not see him yet in the session, so maybe we wait a few minutes and after we could start the session. Okay. Welcome, József. Nice to meet you. Hello. If you hear us, please join our section.
Okay, hello, I'm here.
Okay, hello. Okay, so I repeat again because you have joined at this moment, Józsi, that you have 10 minutes for your presentation, but Anna-Maria will sign after 9 minutes if you are a little bit delaying. So the screen is yours. The topic and the title of your presentation, the economic impact of soybean-free feeding on laying hens. The screen is yours. We are listening.
Sorry, one more technical question. How can I step the slides? Can you help me?
I passed you the presentation function. So I think you can use the flash and you can lead it.
So I should push a specific button?
No, just your computer. Enter or with a flash.
Okay, so I push these buttons, but nothing happens.
And with enter, with the button enter.
I should share my screen at first. Should I share my screen? Because there is a... Szóval meg kell... Oké, szóval magyarul. Tehát meg kell osztanom először a képernyőmet?
Nem, én átpasszoltam neked az előadói funkciókat. Tehát most
Igen, én azt látom, csak...
És nem működik?
Igen, tehát nyomok egy Enter-t, akkor kimegy teljes képernyőre, és utána nem tudom.
Great.
Ja, oké, megvan.
Oké. Meg kellett osztanom veled a szervezői funkciót, és azzal működik, akkor az előadóival nem.
Okay, so can I start or should I start? Okay, so dear colleagues, thank you very much. The topic, together with my co-author, is the economic impact of soybean-free feeding on laying hens. So finally, we wanted to examine how the soybean feeding and a soybean-free feeding is affecting the certain technological indicators of the laying hens performance, and ultimately, of course, the profitability of the egg production. So for that, I would like to say at first that this is a quite introductory and an intermediate research work. So we have some primary results, and thanks to the research results, what you will see later on, we want to continue it. So it is not a final stage of this research project. Okay, so the background of the study is we started the experiment at two places, the so-called Klaman Farm Ltd. In Ruzsa settlement, and another personal private entrepreneur called Lőrinci Mihály in Abony. So the examined stock was the Lohmann Brown classic laying hens at both places. The examined period was from 20th to 62 week, 62nd, sorry, so 20th to 62nd week of age. The technological background also was the same at the two places. So the cage system used the Wely Colony 86 enriched cages, so which is in line with the EU requirements. The goal of research is, so as I mentioned before, we wanted to give an answer to the question how soy and soy-free feeding affects on egg production, so the quantity at first, the rate of waste eggs, the rate of the dirty eggs, dirty by manure mainly, of course, the feed consumption, and the profitability of the overall production. And of course, for this research, we wanted to give an answer about the egg production and tried to compare with the standard results. So the standard production in percent, as you can see in this chart, means that we took the standard production which can be found in the Lohmann Brown handbook. So which is given in the case of the ideal conditions of production. So these are the standards, and the actual productions, as you can see on the left-hand side, the soy-free feeding, and on the right-hand side, the soy feeding production. So as you can see, there are no significant difference between the standard and the actual productions. So and it is also true for both cases. So taking the comparison of the standard and the actual production, and taking the two kinds of feeding technologies, we couldn't see any significant differences. So the second question was the rate of the broken and the waste eggs. As you can see on the chart, a little higher rate of broken and waste eggs could be found on the basis of the feeding method, but there are no significant difference also. And if we analyze it a little bit more thoroughly, we can see that the broken eggs, the rate of the broken eggs started to increase for both flock from the 47th week, thanks to the a little bit bigger eggs. The rate of the dirty eggs in percent, you can see a higher, which is higher in soy-free feeding technology. The most crucial period in this respect is the period of between 28th to the 50th week of age. But you can see approximately 0.5% increase in the crucial period, for which the reason mainly the change in diet, which is caused by the sunflower appearance. So the sunflower meal instead of the soybean caused a little bit different manure because of the higher fiber content. So that is the main reason which comes from this difference. Okay, so the feed consumption, so the soy-free feed consumption is higher. So in quantity, we can see that because of the lower content of protein in the sunflower meal, as a result, the animals can eat more or usually eat more. So the monthly difference per hen is approximately 0.22 kilograms. So it's a little bit less than 5 tons per flock per month. That is the difference in quantity. But as I mentioned, we wanted to analyze the profitability finally. So we also need to examine the price or the cost of these feedstuffs. So the sunflower meat costs 81 Hungarian forints per kilogram. As at the same time, the soybean meal cost is 164 Hungarian forints per kilogram. So the difference is more than double. So a higher quantity, but a much more lower price resulted finally a little bit more serious economic difference between the feed cost. So between the two flocks related to the feed cost. So the profitability, you can see the exact figures. So approximately 12.6 or 7 million Hungarian forints per month in the case of sunflower meat, while more than 13 million Hungarian forints per month in the case of the soy bean feeding. So the difference is almost 700,000 Hungarian forints per month. So it's quite significant. Although consumption of soy is less, the price is a lot higher. That's why we can see a serious, we can say that it's a serious difference in the cost. Moreover, we can talk about certain aspects of the added value, what the soybean, soy-free feeding can provide. So as a result, we can have a more marketable eggs, attractive. It could be attractive to health-conscious buyer. This is a GMO-free, exactly, and as a result, it is a valuable product. So, of course, on the consumer side, it's a valuable product. On the producer side, it's a higher. So can result a higher revenue if they sell them. Okay, it's very important because the GMO-free and the soy-free aspect is very important in terms of the ecological footprint. So a smaller ecological footprint is resulted thanks to the soybean-free feeding. I think it's very easy to understand because thanks to the sunflower meal application, we can face a smaller distance traveled and a cheaper shipping. So it can be an added value as well, which is of course better for the planet. So the conclusions at the end, and of course I want to give some arguments for the soy-free feeding, which we can see and we can summarize that there are no significant differences in production, no significant difference in waste eggs rate, a slightly increased dirty egg production thanks to the different feeding technology and feeding components. And the more feed consumption, but much more cheaper feeding. So as a result, it could be if the other components, other technological aspects are the same, we can see that it could be more profitable with the use of the sunflower meal, and I listed the added values as an additional results and the smaller ecological footprint regarding the shipments. So finally, we can say that these are the preliminary results of this research, and of course, we want to continue this research work. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Horváth József. It was very interesting presentation. The choice between soy and soy-free feeding can have significant impacts on rural development also, including environmental, social, economic, and food security aspects. Okay, I invite the participants to ask questions for the speaker. Okay. Mr. John, welcome.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Welcome to everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
József? Okay, I try to speak loud. So my question is whether in the economical background of Hungarian rural territories, do you think that is there any powerful economical background for customers to buy these special but very healthy products or not?
As the regular answer in this case, that it's a very good question. But okay, so all questions are good. yeah, it's that's why it's a good question, because we know and we can see and we are facing with a quite high increase of food prices nowadays. So the egg prices, the egg is among the products which are kept, so maximized the consumer price in the shops. But we can see that thanks to the lack of the enough quantity of eggs, more and more imported eggs are available in the shops, in the hypermarkets. So the real price are increasing in the frame of this kept and maximized regulations as well. So that's why this kind of initiatives could be viable mainly in the medium-sized and bigger rural towns. So not on villages, I think. So in those places where people are looking for exactly this kind of products. So this firm, this Klaman Ltd, is working in this industry, of course. So they have quite nice experiences in this field. So they can sell this product with a higher added value. Have you heard the answer?
Gabor?
Oh, disappeared.
Gabor left. Okay, we heard the answer, and it was good for me, but Mr. Gyarmati was the questioner. Okay, we wait him. After, I think we should have to follow the program. Shido, so if is no more question, I would like to invite the next speaker, who is Mr. Gyarmati, of course. So that it will be good if we see again him. Gabor, are you here? Meanwhile, Anna-Marie, could you?
Okay.
Okay.
Gabor is here because I saw his microphone, and I passed the main role for him.
Okay, please, Gabor, the screen is yours. The title of your presentation: Main Changes in Food Trade in Europe and the World Under COVID-19 Restriction. If you hear me, please.
He's disappeared.
Please take your presentation.
Perhaps he has a little technical problem.
And thank you, József. Please stay here, because maybe after Gabor could join again, he could answer your presentation, but we have to take on. Hello, Gabor. Are you here?
Oh, hol van? Megint eltűnt.
Can you hear well now?
Okay, hello.
Okay.
Okay, I pass you the speaker role.
Please take your
Lehet
presentation.
hallani, látni, meg ilyesmi?
Sorry?
Yeah.
We hear you. Okay, hello. Hello
Can
again.
you
We hear you perfectly.
And we saw
Please,
you. See you.
and we also see you. After the presentations, I think take the discussion because we have to in time frame. Okay. Your presentation title again: main changes in food trade in Europe and the world under COVID-19 restriction. The screen is yours, Gabor.
He's disappeared. He wrote in the chat that his internet connection is not so correct.
Jó, szerintem haladjunk tovább, jó? Hogyha technikailag megoldjuk. Gábor.
Nincs fönt.
Mr. Vásári Miklós. However, I'm not see him in the chat.
We can continue with the fourth presenter with Mr. Borda Aaron.
Okay, sorry. The next presenter and speaker, Mr. Borda Aaron József. The title of his presentation: the main obstacles to generational renewal in agriculture.
Just a minute.
Yeah, I'm here. So welcome, everybody. Can you hear me?
Here. Oh, you perfect. The internet connection is okay, and the screen is yours.
Yeah, I still can. Oh, I see. And okay, I can move. So
okay,
you can use it.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Switch. So thanks. Welcome, everybody. My presentation title is The Main Obstacles to Generational Renewal in Agriculture. My name is Aaron Borda, and I'm from the Corvinus University of Budapest. We made a complete literature review, and I would like to show the results in connection with this topic. Let's see the generation renewal globally in the US. According to the 2017 agricultural census, the average age of farm manager are increased by more than 1 year in connection with the 2012 results. And in the EU, as you can see, there is the same percentage of old generation of farmers. The old generation means older than 65 years old. And as you can see, the previous years, in 2004 and 2014, there is a increasing number of average age of farm manager. So as we can see, there is an increasing of farm managers' age. In Asia, in Japan, they are the oldest farm managers on the globe. And we can see the average farm manager age is 64.3 years old. In China, the situation is almost the same because it's a generally aging population. And in Asia and Africa, the problem not in connection with the aging, but the migration from the countryside to the cities. Okay, that phenomenon can be experienced in the EU and other side, but it has a huger effect in Asia and Africa. And there are some reasons, for example, the climate change and global warming that can cause this kind of migration. So let's see the Hungarian situation. If we see the general age of, if we see the distribution of farm manager age, we can see in the first diagram as the percentage of the young generation is decreasing. This is a really sad story because the global number of the full number of farm managers, the farmers in Hungary, is decreasing as well. And moreover, the percentage is decreasing well. And on the other hand, as we can see, the older generation, the percentage of the older generation is increasing. So it's not good news in Hungary. But on the other hand, I can say some positive things. This is the education, the qualification, because the unqualified farmers percentage are decreasing. So there are less and less unqualified farmers. And on the other hand, the higher qualified, higher agricultural qualified farmers number are luckily increasing. So this is a really good news. And let's see our research. At first, we used two database article based. This was the Web of Science and the Scopus, and we made a total of 4 research because that is 2 words for generation change. There are synonyms. This is the generation renewal, and we made this search twice. So we used the generation change and the generation renewal in both database, and we add the young and farmer words as well. We found 90 articles, and after we removed the duplicates, there were 66 articles. After we excluded some articles because they weren't relevant or the article weren't in English, just abstract. After there were 57 articles, and we screened them, and there were 2 articles what we should exclude because of the irrelevance of the topic. That was the genetic erosion and the endangered vegetables. So finally, we worked and we studied 55 articles in depth. And let's see this. Yes, let's see the statistics. In connection with the topic, there were different topics. The modern farming, the young farmers was young farmers topic was the most popular. It was 22. There were 22 articles about it, And on the other hand, I was really happy finding those articles which were about the old farmers in connection with income, pension, and something like these. Other popular topic was the family farms, as we can see, because the generation change, generation renewal is a family issue. And yeah, of course, the main topic was, in some cases, the generation change. If we see the distribution of the articles by continents, we can see this topic is a global issue, but it's more highlighted in the EU and in Asia. There were some articles from Africa, from America, and from Australia too. If we see the distribution of the articles by year, we can see nowadays in the recent years it become more and more popular topic. So I can see it can be considered a hot issue, and not only in Europe but in globally. If we see the methodology of the applied methodology in the articles, mostly the writers, the researchers can study this topic with interviews, because I think it can be the farmers farmers like speaking, and among the old generation, the survey, the modern and digital stuff is not a good thing to study their cases. Yeah, there were some surveys, but they can analyze. And apart from this, the statistical analysis were really popular methodology. And what I would like to highlight, the fieldwork, it can be a really good point, because in 3 cases, the writers visited the family farms, and there they made some interviews, write some case studies. So this can be a really good point to analyze their situation. So move on the results. These results, the main obstacles of the generation change, the generation renewal. Firstly, I would like to mention the lack of motivation, and let's see why there is disappearing the motivation among youngsters. At first, the family factor. There was a really interesting article about it, because as we can experience, we have a really fast world, and there is less time for children. As we can experience, there is a market pressure on farmers, because they have to work, they have to finish their work on time. Previously, it was different, because they have enough time to work together with their children. There was the possibility of make some mistakes and something like this. After the education and the knowledge transfer can be an obstacle too. It's quite strange, but if we see that case, there is a young person, that person has the possibility to leave the farm and study at the uni or somewhere else. So that can be and after some people, they don't want to return to the farms, so that can be an obstacle. As we can see, the urban migration, especially in Asia, that's a huge phenomenon and a huge problem. We can see the climate change, mostly in Africa. The young generation doesn't want to continue farming because of the climate change. There are no enough land for them to work, and they mentioned that everything is changing. Moreover, the poor working conditions I can mention, because in the articles mentioned the dirty job. So working in agriculture is considered to be a really dirty job, and especially in working with animal breeding and animals, that can be a bad point. The high administrative burden was experienced just in the EU. As we can know, this is because of the EU supporting policy. The low income, I think it's almost every article write about the low income, but on the other hand, the low bargaining position can be mentioned as well on the market. when the young farmers want to buy some inputs and want to sell their products, and the land mobility, because there aren't enough land for the young farmers. Let's move on to what the policy can do to support young generation. The financial support is crucial, but on the other hand, the modernization can be a really good point, because it can develop the working conditions, and the youngsters are more interested in the modernization and this kind of modern techniques. As we can experience the same in connection with the sustainability topic, and moreover, the organic farms are become more and more popular among youngsters. This can be a really good point for them. In connection with the income, we can develop their income. We can mention some other things. They can diversifying their production, for example, agrotourism. So we can support other activities because it has a labor retention capacity. So it's really good for them. The education. There are some cases where a farm and they work somewhere else, but sometimes they can go back and they can continue the farming. Against the weak bargaining position, the young farmers associations are really needed, because they can work together and they can sell or buy together on the market. It can be really, really important, not just in the EU, but in the other places on the globe. In the EU, in connection with administration, that's not a question. It should be simplified. So the policy makers should think about that. And what is really important, the support of the land purchase. It has some administration barriers, but the policymakers should support the land purchase for the young generation. I think the young generation should buy at first land. So let's see an example when there is a well-educated young farmer who is really in for example, organic farming. As there are some obstacles in connection with developments, and that can be the land. So it's a really main point. Let's see the future of this research. There is a possibility for a data analysis generally, but I would like to research more in the Hungarian issues. As we experienced in the literature review, the in-depth interviews are really good methodology. I would like to make some interviews that can be 10 or a bit more family farms. And what is really good, when we can make some interview with the two generation, the previous and the future generation, it can be really useful. Now we are working on a case study, and in the future, I hope we will do an online survey, at least 500 data. But as I mentioned previously, there are the old generation are not well prepared in the online survey, so it can be there will be some lost data there. So see what happens in the future. So finally, thank you for your attention, and I'm waiting for the questions.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Borda. It is a very hot topic, I think, and very important issues. In particular, the aging population of farmers, lack of access to land and financing, the need for education and training. It's very interesting. If there are questions, please ask for the speaker. If there is no questions, thank you very much again, Aaron.
Thanks.
And welcome back again, Mr. Gyarmati, Gabor. If
sorry.
the problem solved, we listening for your presentation with the title of the main changes in food trade in Europe and the world under COVID-19 restriction. The screen is yours.
How can I handle with enter? Yeah. Can you see well the changes?
It's okay. We see it.
Okay. Okay, I try to make this presentation very shortly and very fast. So welcome to everybody. This presentation is supported by Agroeconomics Association. Thank you for this association. And I would like to make a presentation, make a research about the changes to foreign trade, food trade during the COVID-19 restriction. This is the structure of my presentation. So the main focus point is data and methodology and analytical framework and conclusion and discussion. Yeah, and it is a common knowledge that during the COVID-19, at the beginning of the 2020, there was a very sharply declining in foreign trade, not just in food, just in international trade, other products as well. So we can find the negative effects on durable goods as well, like except in health products like vaccines and so on. So in general, there was a decreasing, dramatically decreasing, and maybe the food trade, agricultural trade was not so low decreasing. Yes, and if you can see some statistical data about market size and the food production, we can see that there is a trend, but except versus for this trend, we can see decrease. But after this COVID-19, these increasing are expected 7% or high percentage, like before the COVID-19. And European continent was the leader before the COVID-19. Today it is true, but the percentage share of this continent, European Union, other European countries, is not the same, 43% from the total. And yes, food, beverages, and tobacco industry, we can see a decrease in every aspect as well. So, yeah, and data and methodology. I collected data from a World Integrated Trade Solution, where we can find the export data in $1,000 or more, or import or export and import activity and so on. And we are looking for the 24 main divisions, which are food, total food. And I selected the best almost 40 countries, which has more than $1 billion export of food. I use these kind of categories from 1 to 24. We suppose that this is the food categories as well. And I use Balasha index trade calculating food, for example, cereals, export of a country, divide the total export of this country, divide the total cereals export, divide in the world, divide by total export in the world. And this is the example of Hungary until the COVID restriction, and after the COVID restrictions, we can see that live animals and, for example, cereals and and miscellaneous edible preparations and so on, we have positive advantages in trade, but in some cases, for example, fish, because we don't have sea, there is disadvantages. Yes, and making a trend function based on the 2017, 19, 18 data, calculated the trend for 2020-21 and compared the real data and calculated the trend minus the real data, and we can see whether what is the change versus the trend data. If we can see negative data, it means that there is a discretion versus the trend. If there is similar data, it means that there's no change. And if we can see positive data, for example, cereals, in the case of cereals, for example, it means that after the COVID-19 restriction, Hungary has positive increasing of competitiveness. So I calculated the data for almost 40 countries, and I find that there are typical losers, decreasers. For example, China, Hungarian, Malaysia, Poland, South Africa, and so on. We have mixed countries where some food categories has increased and some food categories has decreased. And I find a very interesting data that in the case of Greece, India, and US, mostly in every or mostly every categories we can find an increasing in the comparative advantages. Maybe the big background would be that Greece has a very strong government support for changing the output, the supply of food. US has a very strong economical and industrial background, but we need to make more and deeper research to understand in the case of India, for example. It was very typical that mixed countries, so some categories has advantages, some categories has disadvantages. And in the case of China, we can see decline in almost all categories. And in the case of Germany, we can see, for example, dairy products increasing and cocoa and other products increasing, but we can see some tobacco categories or for example, fish products decreasing. Yes, this is US, where in most categories we can see an increasing. So the summarize, the conclusion that China in most countries has decreasing, but China has high decreasing in competitiveness, and India, Greece, and US has increasing competitiveness because of change of sustainability and healthy diet. And there is a big change. It means that in every country has focused on the local production, local food production, except then big long distance trade activities. But it's very important to compare and to speak about after the COVID-19 restrictions. Unfortunately, we don't have data in 2022 and 2023. So maybe 1 year later, next year, we can compare whether these changes can go back in the trend, or there is a continuous decreasing in the food industrial sector. Thank you very much for your hearing and your attention. And if you have any question, I would like to answer these questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabor. If the audience has any question, please ask the speaker. Anybody? Okay, if there is no question, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the presentation would be Mr. Lee, but he cannot join the section yet, so I am the next speaker. Please hear my presentation about the Agro photovoltaics. A sustainable synergy between food production and renewable energy generation. It's also a very, very hot topic worldwide. My presentation will focus on a new integrated solution and technology that has global relevance. This relevance of the topic lies in the fact that the University of Szeged is currently preparing an agro-photovoltaic farm project. And if successful, this project, the Faculty of Agriculture has a great potential to participate in this project with strong research capabilities. And as part of the project preparation, we conducted a review of the international literature to identify the best solutions for research and development in Hódmezővásárhely. During my presentation, I will summarize the findings of this state-of-the-art analysis. Please listen. Okay. Okay. What is agro-photovoltaic APV systems? These systems are a type of hybrid system that combines photovoltaic PV technology with agricultural practices. These systems allow for both crop cultivation and renewable energy production on the same plot of land. This is why it's very useful. The PV modules used in APV systems are specifically designed to allow enough sunlight and rainfall to reach the crops growing beneath them, creating a dual-use scenario that maximizes land productivity and resource efficiency. By integrating food and energy production, APV systems provide a sustainable solution to conflicts over land use, while also offering environmental and economic benefits. What are the advantages, first of all, this kind of APV systems? The APV, very useful. It can increase the productivity of agricultural land, particularly in densely populated or limited land areas. This APV can serve as a resource-efficient, co-productive, renewable energy system with greatest potential in semi-arid and arid regions. For example, in Hungary, there's a lot of regions where the scenarios, the climate models predicted this kind of climate. The use of PV devices in this APV system has been shown to increase water use efficiency, both in PV panels and in the surrounding vegetation. And the shading provided by the panels can also reduce the negative effects of high solar radiation and water loss in dry climates. APV is an important element in future renewable energy systems, supporting food production and agricultural profitability. However, the scientific research on APV has focused on a limited number of crops, but the technology offers promise for future application and development. That's why the department of the agriculture try this kind of project implement. Okay. The benefits of agrophotovoltaics use this kind of systems, APV farms, can increase farm income by more than 30% by minimizing crop losses caused by shading effects through appropriate crop selection. This is a very important data from the literature. Also, APV systems can increase the productivity of entire farmland areas by up to 70%. It also can be used to maximize photovoltaic yield and improve light availability for plants, thereby increasing both energy and agricultural productivity. The mobile PV panels can be used to improve precipitation distribution and increase light efficiency, benefiting both energy and agricultural production. And EPV systems have the greatest potential in dry regions, as I mentioned before, where they can reduce water loss due to evaporation, while increasing economic viability and promoting rural electrification. They can also help reduce crop losses and improve yield stability during dry years. The climatic changes and their impact on crop cultivation also a very common issue in the international literature. The changes can have a significant impact on plant cultivation, especially in areas with high solar radiation. Temperature and radiation levels are critical factors that affect crop yields by influencing nutrient quality and growth. The use of PV panels for shading can produce conflicting results with decreased air temperatures but lower soil temperatures. While shading can protect crops from excessive rainfall and fungal diseases, it can also cause direct water runoff and uneven distribution of precipitation, leading to soil erosion and decreased water availability in protected areas. Therefore, it's crucial to carefully consider microclimatic changes when designing and implementing agricultural practices. The impact of shading on crop yield and quality is influenced by several factors, including the seasonal high of sunlight, location of the facility, and technical implementation. Research on agrivoltaic systems indicates that the available radiation for crop growth can range from 60 to 85% of that in open field conditions, while the average yield of corn and the cultivated under agrivoltaic systems is only slightly affected. A 20% decrease in radiation can lead to also 20% reduction in rice yield, for example. However, there is a limited information available on the effects of agrivoltaics on crops, with mass studies based on artificial shading experiments. It's important to approach these results with caution, as the shading condition in these experiments may not be identical to those under actual agrivoltaic systems. Moreover, changes in microclimatic condition within APV cropping systems can have varying effects on crop yield and quality. However, research on many plant species is still lacking, and results from forestry and agroforestry experiments have limited applicability to APV systems. Yield losses depend heavily on local climatic conditions and implementation. In dry regions with high solar radiation, supplementary shading can be beneficial to crop by the effects of shading on plant cultivation depend on mainly the season, the shading patterns, and microclimatic conditions. Medicinal and spice plants traditionally grown in forests, such as cardamom and pepper, are being investigated for cultivation in agroforestry systems. What are the potential of APV systems? The development such a system is still in its early stages, of course, and has potential for technical advancements and expanding applications. Mainly there are two main type of these PV modules, the dynamic and wavelength selective PV modules. Both of them are promising for crop and biomass production and co-productive systems, and adding with turbines can increase electricity production, of course. APV can be implemented in various ways depending on local climate and size, including optimizing economic processes, electrifying vehicles, serving as a decentralized energy source in rural areas, among others. I think it's a very important thing. The role of renewable energy and agroforestry in sustainable agriculture and climate change mitigation. The importance of plant cultivation descriptions is increasing due to climate change, and renewable energy development is crucial for sustainable energy and climate policy. Also, it has ethical conflicts, this kind of systems, regarding limited agricultural land can be alleviated with agroforestry systems. This provides synergistic effects for protecting crops with PV greenhouses. Also, PV panels offer direct protection against climate change effects, while shade and nets protect against hail, high temperatures, and frost. Okay, and my last thought is about the challenges in introducing agricultural photovoltaic technologies. The introduction of APV technology may face obstacles, of course, due to public debate and legal restrictions, particularly in regards to distinguishing between ground-mounted PV plants and the agro-photovoltaic plants. The dual use this kind of agro-photovoltaic plants. It's important to ensure adequate crop cultivation and avoid some kind of fake agriculture that with agricultural objects. The limit of acceptable crop yield reduction must also be determined, while APV avoids conflicts between food and energy production. And I think this is the most important things in these issues. Changes in the landscape cannot be avoided, leading the social debates. So one approach to improving social acceptance is selective integration into existing landscapes, although subjective options may differ. Okay, and in the end, hopefully the APV farm project of the Faculty of Agriculture will be implemented as soon as possible, and we will be able to report on semi-results, partial results in the next Wellman conference. I hope we will be here again. So thank you. And if there is any question, I'm here. If there is no question, I ask the next speaker, who is,
in the program, the next speaker would be Daniel Szabó, but he's absent because of EMS. So the next speaker will be Mr. Urbányi.
Yes. Due to unfortunate illness of the speaker, the next lecture will be cancelled. Professor Urban.
So I will pass you, Mr. Urbani, the presenter function.
Yes, I'm here. Do you listen me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And who can I change my slide? You know, the using.
With the enter button or with the flash button.
Okay. No. Okay. I cannot change my slide. Sorry. I don't know what's happened.
The role was changed. Try it again, please.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I hope. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
But I
Maybe
try
function.
to. Okay.
We will see it.
I try it. Okay. Thank you so much. Dear Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much that I can participate in this conference. And we are working together in a small team. One of my colleagues who is a co-author in this presentation, Ms. Rita Fekete, who is working now in the University of Szeged, in the Faculty of Hódmezővásárhely. And one of the other co-authors is Ms. Katalin Rákóczi, who is working in the private sector in Endoprofit Ltd. In Hungary. And rest of the authors are working in Mate in the University of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And the title of my talk, you know, the innovation in Hungarian aquaculture, is a completely different like the previous presentation, but I think it will be a little bit unique in this session. And I would like to give you some background why is so important the innovation the current time in the worldwide aquaculture and in the national level in Hungary as well. You know, the basic problem in the worldwide, you know, the more and more people are living in the earth. You know that there is the moderate United Nations forecast that till the 2050 there will be around 10 billion people in the world. So it means that these people has to eat, and you know that these people need more and more protein. And you know the last few decades we realized that the ocean were still empty, and you know the less than less fish can catch from the ocean. So it means there is the big gap between the needs and the catches for the protein sources in the fisheries sector. And the other important thing, you know, the next slide you can see, you know, that there is a picture more than 100 years ago, and there is a picture a few years ago, and I think you cannot find any differences between two pictures. You know, the modernization is extremely very low level in the central and east part of Europe, whereas the pond aquaculture is a traditional. And other hand, you know, I would like to give you the show information about the current status of aquaculture in the international level. You know, the fish catches decrease. You know, in 2020, you know that there is around 4%. And it's very important, interesting data that the European Union is a net importer of the aquaculture product. So it means that 68% of the total aquaculture product consumed in the European Union are not produced in the European Union. So it is very strict situation. And you know the world aquaculture production increased, you know, the 6.2% in 2020, and the marine aquaculture growing a little bit fast, 7%. And the inland aquaculture, for example, Hungary, we are working in the inland aquaculture, you know, growing by 5.7%. And the fish consumption, you know, in worldwide, 20 kilogram, 0.2 decagram per capita per year, and that the European average is more than 23 kilograms. Okay, and the national level, what is the situation now in the aquaculture in Hungary? You know, the market size is quite low. You know, we can produce the market size fish more than 2,000 tons per year. And we can produce this volume 66% in the pond environment, 21% in the intensive fish system environment, and we can catch the 30% from the natural waters. And the overall production, the decreased by 2.7 percentage, and the fish consumption is extremely low. The Hungary is the last within the European Union countries. We can eat around 6.5 kilograms per capita per year fish, so it is quite low. And other very, very interesting data that 77% from all of our consumption by imported fish. So only the 23% produced in Hungary, in Hungarian freshwater fishes. And next slide, why is so important the innovation? The Hungarian aquaculture has many challenges. That there is a low level of mechanization. The previous slide I have already shown the picture from the 100 years ago and the picture in the current time, and you cannot find any differences between two pictures. And the skilled labor shortage and energy cost the last year increased by more than 900%, and the feed costs they increased more than 100%. And that we have a very, very moderate freshwater fish consumption. I have already mentioned the 6.5 kilograms per capita per year. And that we have a light support possibility the last European Union budget period. We have a special operative program, which we can call the Hungarian Fishery and Aquaculture Operative Program, and Hungarian private companies get financial support from this program. And yes, of course, sad but true story, the sector has a very, very lack of innovation and innovation ability. And the next slide, with my co-authors, we organized a special survey. And this survey contains a 3-part questionnaire consisting of the 27 questions. And the group A question, there was a professional background. Group B, the response of opinion on the innovation. And the group C, there is an examination on the innovation capabilities on the enterprises represented by the response. And the questions are the multiple choice and the decision questions. And altogether we got from the 53 feedbacks from the different private companies. But you have to know it's important data that the Hungarian fishery and aquaculture sector representatives around 98 private companies. So it means more than 60% of the companies get a feedback to our survey. And I would like to show you only the few results. The first is what means the innovation, the understanding the innovation. And we describe some definitions. You can see here, for example, using the Voinarovic solution. Voinarovic solution is a very, very important material which we can use during the artificial fish propagation in the carp fish species. The carp is the most important fish species in Hungary and in Central Eastern Europe. And on the other hand, the pond construction is a innovation or not innovation, and you can see more than half of the feedbacks said, okay, this is the innovation, but very well this is not innovation. And the pond renovation also, the main part of the answers say that this is the innovation. And using the artificial GnRH hormones, that in the artificial propagation, in the technological field, we use the special hormone for induce the fish species during the spawning season, meaning in spring. This is the innovation, but you can see the many answers get this is the innovation. And the induced spawning, for example, of European catfish. The Hungary was the first country in worldwide who introduced in the technology using the induced spawning of the European catfish. European catfish as a predator fish is very, very important in the Hungarian aquaculture. And the next part of this question, the definition, there was a development. Development is an innovation or not. Then the technology is an innovation or not. And you can see the other hand. And it was very, very interesting feedback. For example, the fish price. Fish price is a very, very close to the innovation, but it is a very big surprise for us, the fish price. If we use the innovation for producing better and better quality of fish, there is a very, very lack of feedback to the fish price. The fish price is not a part of the innovation. And the other result you can see, that we asked the private companies what is the key important parameter if they would like to develop and increase the income of their company. And it was an interesting feedback that you can see that from the 53 private companies feedback, and the 43 get a feedback that the innovation, this is the most important part to develop their company. And so it is very, very interesting for us that for the private sector, for the profit-oriented sector, the innovation is very, very important. On the other hand, you can see the infrastructure and collaboration. And it was interesting for us again that the education also important for the private sector. And finally, the conclusion, it's interesting, the lack of knowledge of business management influences the attitudes towards innovation, and knowledge about innovation is lacking among business managers. The interpretation of innovation as an activity is ambivalent. And yes, important, real intellectual products do not characterize the results of innovation activities in the fishery and aquaculture sector, and the development of innovation skills and abilities, mainly the innovation management, the acquisition and the further development of this knowledge are considered important by response. And it was my talk, and thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, I'm absolutely ready to try to answer it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Urbányi. It's quite interesting. Good to hear that innovation can be a breakthrough in the development of the sector. If there are any questions, please. Yes. I have actually. My question is, what are the current innovations in Hungarian aquaculture? I read about successful automation and robotics being increasingly used in Hungarian aquaculture to improve efficiency and reduce labor costs and so on. How is technology being used in Hungary aquaculture to monitor fish health, behavior, and so on? Is there any?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very, very good question. But if you are visiting anywhere in Hungary, in the private sector of the ponds or the other infrastructure, I think you will step the 50 years back in the past. The Hungarian aquaculture fishermen, they are not able to ready for introduce the innovation from the robotics and the mechanization into their practical field. And the question is why, in January in Gödöllőr there was a workshop of the fishermen, and we have already invited the two speakers, one from Norway and other from Greece, and they get a fantastic presentation what means the mechanization and robotics and the IT technology in the aquaculture in the salmon industry in Norway and the Mediterranean aquaculture in Greece. And that there was a big shock to the Hungarian fishermen that the current time in Norway and the other part of Europe, this is the absolutely important role for the modernization to help the fishermen. And the Greece and Norway also has a big problem with the labor market. So it means if we cannot start to introduce the mechanization, I think there will be the big problem in Hungary. The question is fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Professor. It's time to introduce these new technologies, I hope, as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions for Professor Urbányi, we continuing the program. The next speaker will be Balázs Dóra. Are you here? Yes. The title of her presentation, Investigating the Effects of Peptables Through Structure-Activity Relationships.
Welcome. And thank you very much.
And we are listening.
Welcome everyone. My name is Dóra Balázs. I am a fourth-year PhD student from the University of Szeged, and I would like to introduce our work about the effects of the peptables produced by trichoderma fungal species and their structure-activity relationships. So more than 417 filamentous fungi species are known in the genus Trichoderma, and they can be described with a great diversity. The members of the genus have favorable properties, like they can be used as biocontrol agents and enzyme producers, and they can be widely used in biotechnology and agriculture. But on the other hand, we can find species with disadvantages. They can cause infections in mushroom growing, and there are opportunistic human pathogen species too. Several members of the genus can produce secondary metabolites like siderophores, polyketides, and non-ribosomal peptides like peptables. Peptide biotics contains more than 2,000 known sequences, and the peptables are the largest group within it. Peptables are linear, bioactive 6 to 20 amino acid residue long oligopeptides, which are produced by non-ribosomal peptide synthesis. As you can see on the upper picture, they have a modular structure and can incorporate several non-proteinogenic amino acids like amino isobutyric acid in a high amount. Peptables has antibiotic effect due to their helical structure. They can form ion channels in the cell wall. As you can see on the picture below, they can attach, and they can also inhibit the cell wall synthesis. Peptables may have an effect on plant growth. They can induce systemic resistance and increase the auxin production in plants. During our work, the first step was to determine new peptables in the case of this study, from 8 Trichoderma filamentous fungal species, and the peptables were determined by HPLC-MS chromatograms. The next step was to prepare the peptable extracts through large plate cultivation, extraction, evaporation, separation, and finally, we prepared the extracts for the bioactivity tests against 11 gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria and 4 fungal species. We determined the minimal inhibitory concentration values against the bacteria species, as you can see on the upper picture, with these inhibitory tests on Petri dishes. And we determined the effective concentration values against the fungal species, like on the picture below. On this slide, you can see our results from the MIC and EC tests. And I would like to highlight this Longibrachiatum F. pissetti strain because this strain had the strongest inhibitory effect against the gram-positive and the 1 gram-negative bacteria compared with the species from the other species from the Longibrachiatum clade. And I would like to highlight these two Trichoderma rossicum strains because they are very interesting. They produce very similar peptable sequences, but in a different length. And in the case of the Trichoderma rossicum 889 strains, the peptidable extracts from it had a really a stronger inhibitory effect against the gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, and also against different plant pathogen fungal species. In parallel with the laboratory bioactivity test, we simulated the most produced peptidable sequences with modern computational molecular modeling techniques to search for relationships between amino acid compositions and structural dynamics changes of the peptidable sequences. We use the accelerated molecular dynamics, or AMD simulations. They are very helpful because, as you can see on the upper picture, we can reduce the energy barriers with a boost energy, and then after the simulation, we can restore the original conditions with the reweighting. After that, we use dihedral principal component analysis, or DPC, to search for the most populated clusters of the peptidable structures, the lowest energies, because this is the most native state of the peptidables, and this is the most important for us. So with the results from the laboratory test and the in silico simulations, we can investigate the structure activity of the structure activity relationships of the peptidables and search for connections between the folding process, the characteristic properties of the sequences, and their exerted bioactivity effects. So in the case of the amino acid compositions, we search for characteristic motifs in the peptidable sequences, and in the case of the two most produced sequences from the Longibrachiatum clade, we found these two motifs in the same position in the peptidable sequences. The glycine, leucine, aminoisobutyric acid, and proline motifs allows a more defined folding process based on the simulations, and it allows less stable state, and it can help the ion channel forming ability of the peptidables compared with the Gli-I Pro motif, which allows a less stringent folding process and allows more possible low energy states, which can't have the ion channel forming ability. In the case of the most produced peptidable sequences from the Trioderma rossicum strains, we detected that the longer peptidable sequence with the more AIP amino acids can have the forming of the 3-10 helix structure more often, which allows a tighter incorporation of amino acid with the larger side chains, and it has the elongation of the peptidable chains. So separate or observations, and based on the MIC values from the Trioderma rossicum strains, we detected that the longer peptidables are more active and they can penetrate the double lipid membrane and form an ion channel more easily. We investigated the position of hydrophobic and hydrophilic regions of the peptidables, and they may have an effect on the bioactivity, but we need more research and more simulation to understand the mechanism of these characteristic properties of the peptidables. And the future of our research is to investigate the effects of peptidable extracts on plants. We work on tomato, on basil, and other herbs at the moment with the peptidable extracts. And on the side of the computational modeling, we would like to model the ion channel forming abilities of the peptidables on membrane models to understand the mechanism of this attachment. And why are we working with these peptidables? The main reason, the main aim is to identify peptidable extracts which can be potentially useful for agriculture, for example, in plant protection and plant growth support, and incorporate the production of peptidable extracts into several biotechnological processes. And thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Dora. It is very important topic, I think, for understanding the molecular mechanism underlying their bioactivity and developing new peptidol-based therapeutics in the pharmacological properties. If there are questions, we are here, and please ask the speaker. Okay, if there is no question, I also haven't a question because it's quite experts in the biology. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Balázs. Please stay here, and I would like to invite the last presenter and speaker, not the last speaker, because there will be a short presentation, but before it, we invite Mr. Vásári. If you are here, Miklós, your topic is the value chain analysis in aquaculture development. Or sorry, not Mr. Vásári. Sorry, I missed the speaker. Hello, Ms. Balázs Molnár, Zsuzsanna. You will be the next speaker. Sorry, value chain analysis in aquaculture development. The screen is yours. We are listening to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Zsuzsanna Balázs Molnár, and I work for the Research Center for Fisheries and Aquaculture of Mata University. And I'm going to shortly talk about the value chain analysis in aquaculture development. And Emese Békefi, who was supposed to give this presentation, is unfortunately unable to attend today. How can I change the... Okay, I found it. So the aquaculture sector is facing growing new challenges such as climate change and resilience. And the market is increasingly complex and competitive. So there is a need for the application of methods during efficient development programs such as the value chain analysis. It is often believed that the supply chain and the value chain are the same concept. Therefore, we have to make a clear distinction between the supply chain and the value chain. The supply chain covers all the activities involved in getting a finished product to the consumers. The focus of the supply chain is integrating the suppliers and producers, decreasing costs and improving efficiency. However, the value chain flows reverse, thus from consumers to suppliers. So the consumers are the source of value. The value chain is focusing on innovative product development and marketing to create a competitive advantage. On this slide, you can see the buyer-driven approach scheme. The consumers are the source of value, and they need a value for their money. So their demand is to get the best quality for the best price. Therefore, the value chain is focusing on innovative product development and marketing to deliver the required value to the consumers. Moreover, many other criteria, including environment, social conditions, need to be considered. So innovation is the key element of value chain development along the whole value chain. Simplifying the scheme of the Hungarian fish value chain, there are three major types of pond fish farms in Hungary. Those farms belong to the first category that operates in full vertical integration. So their activity includes seed and feed supply, market size fish production, processing, and trading. There are many farms in the second category, where the farm produces their seed and sells the fish mainly by themselves. And in the third group, there are those farms that are specializing only in market-size fish production. The value chain analysis provides data and information for the elaboration of the action plan. The implementation of the action plan contributes to the sustainable development of the sector through some specific factors, like reaching higher profits of actors along the value chain, assisting the creation of more stable market conditions, diversifying products, enhancement of quality, stronger brand recognition, maximizing sustainable management of resources, assisting the better involvement of stakeholders in planning and governance, supporting the demonstration of good practices of the promising value chain, promoting cooperation of stakeholders, strengthening support activities, and supporting product and process upgrading on farm level. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Zsuzsanna. Value chain analysis is important in aquaculture development. It can help to identify opportunities for increasing profitability and sustainability by adding value at each stage of the chain. Please ask your questions if anybody has. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, and the last speech will be Mr. Vácskári Miklós. Welcome in the section. The title of his presentation, The Importance of Coupled Support in Hungarian Livestock Production. The screen is yours, or the floor is yours. Thank you. We are listening.
Dear colleagues, welcome everybody. Sorry for my late. Unfortunately, I had an extra activity, and therefore I was not able to start my presentation at the which is calculated in the schedule. But I hope it will be quite informative for you. The topic is a little bit diverse what we can see or what we could see today, but this is also a fundamental and important part of the function of the agricultural activity, because the livestock production and the direct payments, the coupled payments, are a significant part in the case of this session, or not only the session, in the case of the agriculture. And if you would like to increase the efficiency, or if you would like to improve the output of the agriculture, then both of these items could be relevant. On the one side, the livestock production, thanks of that is it possible to achieve high added value, and in the case of that, it could be also an important part by the development of the rural areas as well. On the other side, if we say, for example, the climate change and the effects of the global problems, then we can see on that quite clearly that, for example, the area-based and for the cattle-based or animal-based, animal-related payments could be a little bit recalculated as well, because, for example, the cattle are not so environmental friendly, or we can say if you would like to reduce the number of the animals, then we could increase, for example, this item of the climate change issues. So from this aspect, it could be interesting why these coupled payments, coupled support could be relevant, because nowadays, as you can see, is it active, these payments, these entitlements, but on the other side, the future could be a little bit open, or on the other side, maybe the structure, this philosophy could be changed. First, it's quite important to see the historical background of the agricultural payments or this type of payments. Because thanks of that, is it possible to mention, for example, that since the Agenda 2000, so since the reform, the CAP reform in 1999, the production-related, the production-linked payments or payment entitlements has been removed, and therefore it was not so short linkage between the payments and between the production. It was the fundamental principle at that period, and thanks of the main CAP reforms, for example, the McSherry reforms in 1992, it was a significant point to reduce the linkage between the production and the payments. Thanks of that, is it possible to manage a good quality of the WTO reforms, because thanks of that the EU was conformed to take the challenges which is presented by the international partners, and on the other side it was possible to reduce the amount of the payments which has been presented or which has been sent to these agricultural entitlements. So thanks of that, the main reforms in 1992 and 1999 resulted that it is not so good to link the production to these payments. But on the other side, this is also relevant that there was necessary to make even more a linkage between the production, because in major sectors, for example, in the case of the plant production and in the animal husbandry as well, that was also necessary to understand and to focus the external and internal reasons why these elements is necessary to present. And in this case, it is quite important as well that the sector had quite significant and quite big problem, and in many member states realized that if the animal-related payments will be reduced or it will be finished, then it could be a result that the member states will be not able to solve the problems what they have, and therefore it was it will be not sustainable the whole agriculture. So we can say that there are some challenges in the issues, and therefore it is also important that it is necessary to maintain the agricultural payments process. It is also important to find a solution for the sector, and therefore was necessary in the case of the health check in 2009 that there was a example, there was a good point that some extraordinary measures related on the Article 68 has been introduced, and based on that, it was possible to pay some animal-related payments. And at the time, the milk industry and the cattle received such kind of payment. On the other side, the whole reform has been finished in the previous reform period, which has been started in 2015, and it has been clearly declared that is necessary to produce animal-related and, for example, area-related capital payments, and therefore the introduction of this payment process has been managed and has been introduced in this period. So the last period, what we can see, it has been started in 2015 and it has been finished in 2022, so quite recently. It has been quite presented that this is a quite important part of the member states measure group, what they can use to help the industry, to help the whole agricultural sector, and on the other side to help the animal breeders as well, because thanks to that it is possible to present them a good and quite sustainable sector and life as well. So we can see what is the main item and the main core element in this case. It is quite important that the member states can use this sector as this sector payment just an optional. So they have the opportunity to decide about this one, and we will see a little bit later that, for example, all of the countries or almost all of the countries use this payment because this is quite effective and it's really presenting, really resulting that the member states can help their producers. And on the other side, it's quite important where the types of farming specific types of farming or specific agriculture sectors particularly important for economic, social, and environmental reasons, there is possible to help with in the form of this payment, and therefore it is possible to reduce their difficulties. There is also a framework for that. Unfortunately, it is not possible to link all the payments related amounts related entitlements for various sectors, and on the other side, is it not possible to send the whole amount for that, the whole national budget in the case of voluntary related related support. But on the other side, it's quite important that in Hungary and in many of the other countries can use 10%, maximum 15% to this amount, to this payment, and therefore is it possible to help directly the special condition, the special situation, and the negative consequences can be compensated. The 8% can be linked to the, and the 13 can be linked to the general sectors, which is declared in the fundamental regulation, and the extra 2% can be sent to the legumes and the protein crops, the seeds, and thanks for that, is it possible to help indirectly the sustainability of the national protein consumption, and therefore the European protein consumption could be also much more manageable. And this is also good for the animal husbandry as well, and therefore this helping in many of the cases the animal husbandry, so the breeders as well. So if you go into the next slide, then we can see as well that the voluntary capital support is in many of the countries are in use. So we can see due to the Brexit, 26 member states using the voluntary capital support generally, and in the case of that, Hungary also using this point. In this case, just Germany is the extra country, not introduced until this time, but from the next period, from 2023, so from the current year, they will also introduce this voluntary capital support because it's giving them also some extra advances. If you say in the European level, then it's quite important that together 259 measures can be used. There are quite various of them because from the rice up to the flax is it possible to use in various area, but the budget is almost a quite significant number. We can say 2.24 billion euro per year is it possible to spend for this area. And if you're seeing the distribution of that, it's quite important that 75% of the total coupled support will be linked to the three categories which focusing on animal husbandry. On the one side is this the milk and the milk products. Unfortunately, it is not possible to show just the milk cows in this case because in this so the fundamental regulation presented quite clearly that just the milk and the milk products can be mentioned. Of course, in many of the cases, the member states giving some extra payments to the animal-related function or in form. So therefore, the milk and milk products linked to the cattle, the milk cattle in this case, the sheep and goat meat, and finally the beef and veal. These are the three entitlements. So these are the three forms which can be supported in the case of the voluntary capital support. Not only in Europe, not only in Hungary, in Europe as well, but in many of the cases, all the countries using these forms. If you're saying this information graph, then we can see the share of the financial allocation per sector in the claim year 2020, and therefore we can see the largest amount will be flowed to the beef and veal sector, almost 40%, which has been spent to this targeted sectors, and therefore in 2020, in this claim year, it has been spent for this period. Everybody can ask that why is it not possible to show a little bit fresh information and fresh data? The reason is that in 2021 and 22, it has been frozen, the system, because thanks of the multi-annual financial framework, it has been not accepted at the right time, the budget of the common agriculture policy, and therefore there was a special transitional period in 2021 and 2022, and therefore all of the frameworks and all of the financial amounts has been frozen based on the claim year in 2022. So therefore we can repeat this information in 2021 and 2022. So we can see in today, recently the beef and veal was the most important. We can see the milk and milk products. So the milk cows received almost 21% of the total financial allocation, and almost 30% has been flowed to the sheep and goat. In Hungary, we're paying the sheep sector just. And you can see some other area, protein crops, fruit and vegetables, sugar beet, and others can be mentioned. And the difference, the differentiation between the different countries could be linked, related to their conditions, related to their financial framework. If they have, for example, some other national payments which can be held in different sectors, and for example, this importance of this of these categories. And if you go into the next slide, then we can see that how much was, for example, the comparison of this change in this previous period. It has been increased in 2019, the total amount, and you can see the beef and veal has increased, the milk and the sheep and goat has increased in this period as well. In many of the cases, it belongs to the annual, so the nominal change of the common budget. There wasn't any significant difference in this case, and therefore it wasn't so extra huge the difference between the different years and these periods. On the other side, we can see that these payments can be used in, as I mentioned, in all of the countries, and therefore this support is quite relevant in all of the countries. And it will be the question that why we can use and why we can manage for a longer period. We can see that the climate change is around us. The previous year was affected with one of the largest, one of the most significant drought what we could see formally, and therefore it will be also significant that the European Union have to be changed their CAP, have to be changed their significance of the financial expenditures as well. And in a climate, we can say that, for example, the extra policies which are also important, for example, the foreign policy and, for example, the security policy, which are also quite detailed partner in this in the common budget, and it will be even more significant. It could be resulted that these measures have to be changed and have to be finished. But on the other side, we can see the need of that is quite significant and it's quite important, and therefore we can see as well that these amounts are quite calculable, and therefore all of the partners know exactly that they can use this amount. How much is the amount? They exactly know the conditions, and therefore they know exactly what they can calculate in this form. It is one of the most important items that this payment is just linked to those who really producing something, and therefore the non-producers do not receive any financial contribution. So therefore, it is not such kind of tricky guys cannot use this amount. And on the other side, the domestic financing practices can use in a quite high volume, and therefore it's resulting a good option and good opportunity to the member states to present them a good financial allocation. So the commercial banks can take into account these financing issues, and therefore, for example, such kind of extra financing practices can offer for the farmers, and therefore the liquidity of the sector could be increased, and therefore it could be a little bit much more sustainable. The payments amount are significant, so therefore we can see that it has been provided substantial support in the production. Therefore, so enormous amount has flown to the producers, and therefore the sectors could increase and could stabilize their activity. what we can see on the future, it is quite interesting, and unfortunately I don't have enough time to extend this in a quite longer context, but it's quite important that until 2027 we can see these measures. So these are available, and all the parties, all the producers and other actors in this case can use this payment, and it's quite important that this is calculable and manageable, and therefore the financial stability can be secured in this period. But it is quite open into question what will be happening since 2000 or after 2027, because a new CAP reform could be started. Therefore, it could be happen that the whole structure of the CAP payments will be recalculated and reformed. The climate and the environmental issues became even more important, and all the payments and all the processes what currently we'll be using in the next 5 years, it could be extended, and therefore maybe the financial resources of the coupled support could be reduced as well. So therefore, this is a treat regarding the coupled payments. But on the other side, this is quite important that some sectors affecting the huge problems. So therefore, it is really necessary to offer a good fundamental for this one. Not only, for example, the animal husbandry, but on the other side, other sectors affecting with extra problems, and therefore it could be necessary from the agricultural policy to have them, and therefore to increase their efficiency and sustainability. So on the other side, the coupled support in the case of this animal husbandry related payments on the other side could be a longer part of the agricultural toolkit from the period of 2027. So sorry that maybe I was a little bit too much, but thank you for your attention, and I hope that all the information what I wanted to show you, it was clear for you. May you have any question, and of course I will answer for that.
Okay, meanwhile I had some technical problems. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because coupled support is important in Hungarian livestock production, as it provides financial assistance to livestock farmers to help maintain the viability of the sector. I have a question. So the new EU subsidies for Hungarian livestock production affect the implementation and effectiveness of coupled support measures in the sector. What are the potential implications for the viability, sustainability of Hungarian livestock farming?
Sorry, Raj, can you repeat your question, because it was not so clear?
Because you are echo. Ott visszhangzol.
Visszhangzol. Aha. Nem tudom, mi lehet itt. A baj, közben elment nekem a másik kamera.
Most jó.
Most jónak tűnik?
Nem.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But
yeah. So how will the new EU subsidies for Hungarian livestock production affect the implementation and effectiveness of coupled support measures in the sector? Do you have some?
In the new period, which will be started in these years, and it will be launched in 2027, the main framework and the conditions will be not changed, and therefore it will be also the same one what we used or what the producer used formerly. But based on that, some technical minor changes will be happened, and together is quite important from the aspect of the European Commission, that these payments, on the one side, that is financially is quite good, and they receiving, so the farmers receiving some financial contribution to their activity. But beside that, those requirements and those conditions which are linked to the entitlements, they have to also improve, for example, the sector's efficiency and the sector's sustainability. So some minor changes affected, for example, the use of the water. For example, in the case of the milk cattle, it will be also controlled and regulated. And this is the environment from the climate DG Climate of the European Commission. And for example, the beef sector also received that, for example, much certificated animal certificated parent animals will be requested in this case. So indirectly, the process has been started, and maybe it will be a result that up to 2027 it will be created some significant change in this point, but it is quite minor. So unfortunately, it was not possible to create a huge change, a huge challenge in this process. So the sustainability and what we could expected from the scientific aspect, it is not enough. So we can say that much more attractive and much more ambitious goals could be received in this process. But unfortunately, the different leaders, not only in Hungary, in other countries as well, they not change significantly based on this process because the European regulation was not requested to do something.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Miklos. Thank you very much. If there are more questions, please ask, Mr. Vársari. Okay. Thank you very much again. And I think you was the last speaker, isn't it, Anna Maria? We know more speakers, so I would like to thanks for your participation in these sections. I would like to highlight some important issues on this topic in the end of this section. One of them is sustainable agriculture, the use of sustainable agricultural practices and technologies which can improve productivity, reduce environmental impact, and enhance profitability. This is one thing. The other is the agricultural value chains. We heard that developing more efficient and effective agricultural value chains can help farmers increase their income and improve their livelihoods. And the third thing, which I can think is very important issues in this topic, is the innovation and entrepreneurship. This kind of things encouraging the innovation and entrepreneurship in agriculture can lead to the development of new technologies and practices, and these all these enhance productivity, reduce waste, and increase profits, and so on. So I think these topics are very important, and the sections we could discussing this kind of topics. If there are no further questions, I would like to thank everyone for their participation in the conference and this workshop and brainstorming the conference. I wish you all continued useful work, and thank you very much again. Thank you, Anna Maria, for your help and assistance, and everybody to participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a nice day.